The final we all dreamed for in Rome is a reality as Jannik Sinner takes on Carlos Alcaraz for the Italian Open title. In just his first tournament back from his suspension, the world number one proved exactly why he is the best of the best right now, extending his win streak to 26. But Carlos Alcaraz seeks to retain his title as the current king of clay, as with the win, he'd claim all four big titles on the dirt. This is probably the most hyped match of the year thus far, maybe even more so than the Djokovic-Alcaraz Australian Open quarterfinal, and for good reason, because this match is going to be extremely tight to call, but I'm going to try my best with this preview. Hey, I'm Christian Bassnight, and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not yet already, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you are notified whenever I post more Rome content later on, because I still have a few more videos to get out. So I came dressed to impress for this one because this is a special occasion. It's a really big match, and like I said, it's probably the most anticipated match of the year right now. Looking at Jannik's path to the final, he kind of worked his way back into form. Of course, it's his first tournament in about 3 months, and I think the straight sets when he scored over Francisco Cerundolo in the fourth round was huge for him in building more confidence, as Fran is a very high quality opponent, especially on this surface. That win laid the foundation for Jannik to absolutely crush Casper Ruud, love and want in the quarterfinals. Just a truly emphatic performance, and a lot of that was due to Jannik just enjoying Casper's shot, even more so during the nighttime conditions. Jannik came back to earth a little bit definitely in his semifinal against Tommy Paul, as he got fed a breaststroke in the opener before powering back and only dropping 3 games in the final 2 sets. Talking a bit about the Sinner-Paul match, I thought that Tommy did an excellent job of really stepping up and going aggressive against Sinner's backhand, which was a little bit more error-prone than usual last night. Paul also had good success in mixing in a few slices and such to really throw off the Italian's rhythm, and probably allows the best set of tennis that Paul has probably ever played in his life. But Tommy, he does have the tendency to kind of be a little bit choke prone, plus it's just hard to sustain that type of tennis against the best of the best. Jannik cut down a lot on his unforced errors, and he took care of business on his end with his serve. Sinner also stepped up with his returning, and he read more of Paul's serves, and he gave himself more of a chance in actually making them back in play with good interest too. Now, in comparison, looking at Carlos's road to this final, he had a little bit more topsy-turvy with his love of this tournament, which makes sense because it's, of course, Carlos Alcaraz. It's par for the course with him. His tightest match was in the 4th round against Karen Khachanov, in which he won 7-5 in the 3rd set. He got through some really tight straight setters against some tough opposition in Jack Draper and Lorenzo Musetti in the quarterfinals and semifinals, respectively. Again, Carlos's level wasn't really top tier from start to finish in these matches, but it was good enough, and he did what he needed to do in the crunch time to get the W. Comparing these guys and looking at their head-to-head, both of these men have excellent finals records, with Sinner holding a 19-5 win-loss record in these championship matches, and Alcaraz is 18-6. Overall, Alcaraz does have the advantage in the head-to-head department, 6-4, and these two have played twice on clay overall. Jannik won their first match on this surface in 2022 in the UMAG final in 3 sets, whereas Carlos won their Roland Garros semifinal from last year in 5 sets. As many of us know, Carlos was 3-0 against Sinner last year. That makes up literally half of Jannik's losses overall in 2024. And their last meeting was in last year's Beijing final, which was an instant classic, which Carlos took 7-6 in the 3rd set. That was the very last match that Jannik actually lost, as of course Sinner is riding that 26-match win streak. And equally impressive, Jannik has won 24 consecutive sets against top 10 opposition. Now, this is a high-stakes final for sure. Jannik is aiming to become the first Italian male to win this tournament since Adriano Panatta in 1977. Now, Jasmine Paolini took a little bit of pressure off him in claiming the women's title, so it's a little bit less again. Jannik will be playing for his first Clay 1000 title of his career, and he will also close the gap in the ATP Race to Turin, which Alcaraz currently leads. If Jannik does win this title, he would close that gap to about 400, and that would have, of course, big implications in the year-end ranking. And then this would be Jannik's 5th ATP 1000 title. Carlos, meanwhile, is playing for his 7th ATP 1000 title, and he's trying to complete a set of winning all the big clay titles. He, of course, won Monte Carlo this year. He is a 2-time Madrid champion, and he is the reigning Roland Garros champion. I really think whoever wins this match will be the favorite heading into Roland Garros. Yes, Alcaraz, he has accomplished more on this surface, and he should already be considered the favorite regardless of this result. But Sinner, again, we can't forget, he was 2-1 up against Alcaraz in that tight Roland Garros semifinal last year, and it was perhaps a few games or so away from winning that whole slam. Now, looking back at that Roland Garros semifinal, Sinner did what he does typically against Carlos, which was try to beat Alcaraz with pace and big first strike tennis, and it worked, and he caught Carlos off guard with how well he dictated the proceedings and won the opening set fairly convincingly 6-2. But like in their Indian Wells matchup from last year as well, Jannik cooled off a bit, and Carlos rose his level at the perfect point to swoop in, and Carlos clawed back from an early break deficit in that second set, and he did well to really use his inside-out forehand, especially to pressure Jannik, and he also still incorporated good variety in changing the height and pace of shot to kind of keep Jannik at bay and prevent Sinner from going pow, pow, pow before Carlos took advantage of a shorter ball and went pow, pow, pow himself. Now, Alcaraz did get a lot of help from Jannik, as the Italian missed a lot more first serves and wasn't firing as well in that first serve like he was before. And then, too, of course, Carlos woke up and realized that he still needed to take more risk and do more himself. Jannik, he did rediscover his form a little bit and, of course, went up that 2-1 lead. And the fourth set was the best set of tennis between these two guys. But Carlos was just a touch better, and Jannik's tight mistakes costed him big time. The fifth set just came down to who would be the more physically tough of the two, and both guys struggled immensely, but Carlos was just tougher, and that's why he won. Talking about where Alcaraz has the advantage in this matchup, first of all, for this one in Rome, he has the mental edge against Sinner coming into this final. Yes, Jannik hasn't lost in so long, but again, the last person he lost to was against Carlos, who was 3-0 against him last year, won 3 straight matches against the Italian. And now Jannik did have chances, I think, to kind of run away with the matches. All the matches were tight from last year. And while Carlos is an excellent competitor and rose his level, I think that Jannik still felt the pressure, and he knows how big this is in beating Carlos. And I believe he said one time previously that he thinks about beating Carlos just randomly in the day sometimes. And I just think that Carlos overall just enjoys this matchup more compared to Jannik. I also think that the conditions of the match overall, I mean, it might favor Carlos a little bit more. And I say that because I think Jannik has played 4 of his 5 matches in Rome at night. This final will be played, of course, during the day. On the flip side, Carlos has played 4 of his 5 matches this tournament during the day. So that's going to be potentially a little bit of a tough challenge for Jannik to overcome at first, just adjusting to the different conditions. I also think Carlos has the edge physically. Jannik, this is still his first tournament back, and I think while he's shown great tennis and he has lasted, it might catch up to him. He was grabbing at his leg a little bit during that Paul match. That was the first match where he was pushed the distance, and I felt like that did impact his backhand in particular, and still Paul wasn't able to have enough moxie to take advantage of that. Jannik said that he is 100% and he's not concerned about his leg. There are also reports that he was suffering with a blister, so maybe with a day of rest, he'll be 100% fine. But I don't know if we should be so naive to be for real. I think that Alcaraz is more conditioned to this type of grueling affair that this match promises to be, as he's played quite a few tough matches on the clay, and he's just more match tough compared to Jannik. Now, talking about Sinner's advantage, of course, the big one is the crowd. Carlos did have good practice in playing another Italian, Lorenzo Musetti, in the semifinals, but I think that the crowd will be 10 times more intense in this final. This is going to be a huge, massive spectacle in Italy, high stakes. So many fans are going to be rowdy and wanting their man to get this win. And we saw just how much the crowd impacted Gauff in the finals against Paolini. She was very much so subdued. Wouldn't be surprised if the crowd kind of took Carlos out of his element in this final as well. Also, I think there are going to be less expectations on Jannik overall for this match. From the sound of it, I don't think Jannik's going to be placing as much stock into this match as in maybe other matches previously. Yes, again, it is still a 1,000 tournament. It's high stakes, but Jannik seems to be taking this from an approach of this being more of a building block tournament for him in regards to Roland Garros around the corner. Jannik knows that even making the finals is a huge accomplishment in itself, not playing for so long. If anything, there's going to be more pressure on Carlos, I think, as he's probably thinking, dang, I can't let Jannik beat me after being out of the game for so long, especially on my arguably best surface too. I really wouldn't be surprised if Carlos kind of has a little bit more tension on him and plays a match like he did against Djokovic at the Australian Open this year. Now, predicting what we could expect in this final, I wouldn't be surprised if it's not up there as being one of their best quality matches. With the slower clay courts in Rome this year, we've seen quite a few matches where the unforced error count is twice or maybe 3 times as high as the winner count. And that doesn't mean necessarily that the match quality is poor, but it might not be the most aesthetically pleasing for fans to watch. I really think we're going to see a lot of long, grueling rallies that might not always end up with a flashing winner, and we just have to brace ourselves for that. I think it's going to really come down to crunch time, and I see it going 3, and in that case, I would favor Carlos. Jannik's body has held up fine for this being his first tournament back in 3 months, but this would be a major, major test. And again, he hasn't been pushed that much, even though that Paul match went to 3 sets. The first 2 sets were like quick, were easy and done. Carlos is going to push him, or at least try to push him deep, hard and deep with a lot of grueling rallies. And for that reason, the main reason I'm picking Alcaraz to win this match in 3 sets. I did say after Jannik beat Ruud that Sinner was going to be my favorite to win the title, even more so than Carlos. But the Paul win for sure showed that he's still human. He's not perfect, of course. And again, I think that Ruud match was a once-in-a-lifetime type of match from Sinner. And we can't forget the fact that Casper's game style kind of plays into the hands of Jannik a little bit more. Jannik really enjoys playing Ruud. Not taking anything away from Sinner because, again, it was an unbelievable match and win, especially after that hiatus. But my point being is that we saw how Paul pushed Sinner more because his game style troubles Jannik, and of course Carlos is primed to do the same and bring a little bit less perfect tennis out from Sinner's racket. And I ultimately again went with Carlos because of his match toughness from recently this year on the clay and his confidence in beating Sinner previously, and then the physicality factor. Like, again, this match can go either way. It's like a coin flip toss. I think the odd makers have Sinner as the slight favorite. Like, really either guy could be the favorite. It really doesn't. It's up in the air, so it's just hard to pick. I really think that Jannik needs to try his best to win this match in 2. Wouldn't be surprised if he did, because you never know. I think that maybe that could be the factor in him having like less pressure on him. Maybe he'll be able to get over the hump in the tight moments in ways that he wasn't able to in previous matches, because the matches, again, from last year were all in his racket. He just wasn't able to close. So, again, maybe that and the fact that the crowd propelling him, he could win this match in 2 sets, but I'm just going to stick with Carlos and predicting that he'll outlast Jannik physically in this one. So, again, Alcaraz would be my pick to win this match in 3 sets. That's all I have for this relatively brief prediction video. Let me know your thoughts and your predictions of who will take this one in the comments below. And also make sure you, again, subscribe and click that notification bell so you're aware of when I post my men's final recap as well as my women's final recap, which will come out hopefully before the men's final even starts. Thank you all so much for watching and for your support, and I'll see you all next time here on Christian's Court.